Hey, welcome back, my fellow humble investors. It's me, E.T. And in this video, we have the complete Ron Luna's interview with Brian Foote. Great information in this video. We get to hear Brian Foote's insight into his vision of where Humbl can go. So let's go ahead and check this out.
Happy to be a part, new advisor for the Humbl team. My job is to get here, take what's going on with blockchain, all these things that are cutting edge, really simplify that to you so you understand what's going on, lay out the roadmap, and it's a big roadmap of an execution of what I said before I believe is $1 trillion idea filled with multi-billion-dollar verticals along the way. So what I wanted to do today was take this opportunity, because usually I'm talking in news bites, sound bites, same thing as for Brian, to educate you guys a little bit about what I see with Humbl, kind of blockchain in general. What are some of the verticals that they're going to be working on? And I'm going to learn a little bit more from Brian. We've been spending a lot of time together, but a little bit more about my role to take all of these ideas, communicate them to you. But most importantly, the best thing that I could do for shareholders is put a roadmap together, financials together, that we know what we need to do on a daily basis, weekly basis to get out there and execute. And what I really like about Brian, the reason he came to me is he said, I know it's all about execution now, and that's why I'm bringing you on board.
Cool. Yeah, no, absolutely. I was really drawn towards Rob's vibe in terms of execution. He spent most of the time talking to us during the first half of his visit, which was probably about a 10-hour day, talking about due diligence, where are we at with product lines, financials, roadmap, the concept, just making sure we were real and doing our thing. And then the second half of it was sort of about, okay, cool, you've got a brand, you've got product roadmap, you've got some technology pieces. Now, how are you going to translate that into a product line in the market? And I think that's where execution comes in. And as I was saying on our IG Live, like without execution, we're nothing. So that's why we brought, Rob in, and I'm thankful that he said yes. I was starting to kind of rate him during our visit, and I thought, okay, this is a guy who is a true operator, like an actual true operator of businesses. He executes, he's kind of a see ball, hit ball type of guy, but with a long range view towards keeping in perspective what our business is. And that's what's, I think, great for us, is that we are in this really unique portion of the life cycle where we're an early stage company. We're under tremendous pressure to execute a number of product lines. And so having, seasoned hands on deck to help us do that is a great honor.
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective. And I think, that's one of the things when I looked at this company, I'll back up a little bit. So you guys have known me. I've been in the wealth management space for all of my career since 1998, which is a long period of time, primarily working with high net worth, ultra high net worth investors. My typical client has about a $25 million net worth. And with that being said, I've been involved with everything from very small businesses. You guys know me, I'm an entrepreneur. I built and scaled and sold the vast majority of my own wealth management to a publicly traded firm just last year. And I've done that for several different companies. What I really realized early on, what it's all about is strategy, people, and execution. Yep. And so when I got into this, there was a few things. First of all, I kind of just fell into Humbl. I saw the shareholder support and base out there and realized this is a company that really needs more transparency around it. And there's a lot of people that really believe in the company, which really inspired me, quite honestly, Brian, to learn more about it. But what I also wanted to do is kind of bring some perspective, right? Because when you're an ultra high net worth investor and you're investing in an early stage startup company, which a lot of my clients do, those types of investors understand the investment. They understand, especially when you're talking about something as bleeding edge as what Humbl is trying to do, that it's going to take some time to execute. If you think about Jeff Bezos, for example, people thought he was crazy when you looked at the multiples and what were going on with books, but this was a true visionary. And I think I see the same thing with you, Brian, of someone who is really an operator, understands exactly what's going on with the blockchain, where things need to go to be executed. He's building out a great team. We need to continue to build out that team. We need to continue to define and build out that strategy. And I think if you're able to do that, sky's really the limit for this company. And it's extremely exciting. And so when I started seeing, because of the way you listed OTC, there's a lot of investors that were newer investors. Sure. That weren't seasoned vets of investing in startup type of companies. Sure. So expectations might not have been exactly what I believed they should have been. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was the biggest narrative. What I wanted to bridge was that this is a huge opportunity. Mm-hmm. It's going to take a lot of work, though. there is some really great ideas, great things in place. And I think it's going to continue to get better and better every day. But what I wanted to do was, take people that were looking at this company and understand you're investing in something that could be huge.
Yeah.
It's going to take time. And I think one of the biggest things I've learned working with several entrepreneurs in the tech space, in finance over time, when you're dealing with something this new, it's about pivoting.
Yeah.
The opportunity to, when you look at let's just say something small like ticketing.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at Live Nation, that's a $20 billion business just in ticketing. So for people who are thinking this is a small feat, ticketing is going to be changed through NFTs, the way it's delivered. All these things are very, very exciting. So to me, when you look at these verticals, and I'll let you kind of talk about them, each one of these is a multi-billion-dollar business, needs to be treated as such. The timing of execution really in today's day and age is really going to need to be able to change day to day. And the ability to pivot, not have this set doctrine of how you need to execute is critically important today.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, in a very simple level, I enjoyed hearing you communicate our business after we met, because you reduce it into very intelligent sound bites that I think we need as a company. And what I think about is a backbone, and a backbone can have a lot of different vertebrae on it. The things we've selected for blockchain tokenization, payments, ticketing, NFTs, and financial are very interrelated vertebrae on that backbone. And so I do think the vision will scale out over time, real estate, et cetera. But where we wanted to start was on very addressable areas of our business and this new technology. And I just think it's, going back to the Bezos example, they bled cash when they first started. They had these extreme undulations in their stock. And he said, look, be prepared to be misunderstood for long periods of time on the front end of your business. And so I'm inspired by guys like that who have sort of ridden out the waves of infancy, where the easiest time to sort of go after a business is when it's in that crawl, walk, run phase. And so, you have these sort of days as an entrepreneur where you go, is the country or the world on my side of building a business? Or is it like, I seem to have more adversaries of people who don't want it to succeed at times. And you go like, I don't know what motivates people in that regard, because you're just trying to build a business, and you're an American entrepreneur, you want to build it globally with your regional distribution partners around the world. So there are some narratives within the early stage of a business where you just have to keep your eye on the horizon, work the roadmap. And so when you get around someone like you that has great sort of pedigree on executing and getting from point A to point B, that for us as an entrepreneur, for me, was very attractive.
Yeah, and I think, a lot of people when they're looking at this, trying to just get a general understanding of blockchain and the capability. And you talked about a lot of people maybe hating you or hating on you, as they would say. I think a lot of it, quite honestly, this is something I've talked about in the media, I've talked about to our clients for a long period of time, is I think blockchain in general, we don't know exactly what it's going to do. The narrative and the story is still being written. But I think it's going to put a lot of people out of business.
Yeah, I agree.
I think businesses are going to be developed in a completely different way. So I think a lot of the people who might not like you are the people who might not have jobs.
It's true. Well, there's a huge white collar service layer that stands to get eviscerated by blockchain if it's implemented correctly. We sit more on the consumer side. So I think for us, it's about empowering people into retail investors, into new opportunities to buy, sell, trade, track, pay. If we can give them those utilities within the construct of Humbl, I think we'll win pretty big and provide a great set of utilities for consumers.
And when I thought too, growing up, building businesses in a highly, highly regulated environment, that's one of the things too, I understand that I think a lot of people might understand when you start talking about some of these applications, they're highly regulated. And you got one chance to get it right. You want to get it right. This is a long-term vision. This is a 20, 30, 40-year vision of changing the world. And so I do like the fact that you guys are prudent. You're worried about data security, all these different things that are out there as well. But can we talk, maybe, there's three core components of the business. Can we give a little bit of light on each one of those, what the intermediate plan is going to be? And I'm going to kind of tell you my thoughts.
Sure.
We'll think we'll
and I think you made a good initial point too about data, dollars, and compliance. And those three things are so vital when you're dealing with people's data, when you're dealing with people's digital dollars, and you're dealing with compliance. You need to just be really thoughtful about rolling out product lines so that you don't footfall on your way out of the gate. There are certainly big tech companies that just plowed their way through fines, that got in the game 20 years ago and just made the cognizant decision to plow through their fine loads. We are not going to do that, Like we want to be a banner of innovation and thought for how blockchain can roll out in the United States and globally. in a manner that's cogent, regulated, thoughtful, and has a long-term thesis. So in that sense, we're very we have a lot of rigor inside the building about rolling products out, and we want to do it thoughtfully. Across the divisions, we have sort of this continuum, and I use that word a lot because it's the only word I've thought of that communicates tokenization. Tokenization on its face in blockchain is a hard construct to understand, but it's brutally simple. You're basically just wrapping something into an asset that can then be traded between two people. So that's a payment, it's a ticket, it's an NFT, or it's some kind of financial product or service that you're engaging with. So tokenization becomes this really simple way for people to record, trade, track, and pay with each other. And so we see exciting possibilities there for the long term. And that's why we wanted to hit the gates running on blockchain.
Why in general, when you talk about tokenization, and if you could explain to people, why is that so disruptive?
It's disruptive because traditionally asset classes or assets were defined by the brokerage layer, right, or the exchange layer. And so you have mutual funds and ETFs, which are sort of they're intelligent constructs in the sense that you're giving someone exposure to a basket of assets that are calibrated across index, active, or thematic strategies. That being said, you can't pick up and do that as a pedestrian. And so what's super disruptive about tokenization is I can create an NFT on the Humbl NFT gallery, post it, and then trade it with you. And that's just not something that I would have to go to an art broker to do to get to you.
You know, it's an interesting concept because I, prior to Humbl, was looking at NFTs, and I was probably one of the guys early on, like, I don't know if this is going to catch on. But the more and more time I spent on it, the more valuable I realized it was. And I'm a kid who grew up selling sports cards, right? And did a pretty good job doing that. And I also started looking at was people like my daughter who's 13, her friends, the millennial generation. And I started realizing if you look at some of the things they're doing, like gaming, they're buying digital assets, weapons or homes, and they already understand the value. So that's ingrained in the psychology of the millennial generation, which, by the way, the millennial generation is going to be the wealthiest generation, the largest generation in U.S. history. So this is really, as Gretzky said, kind of skating where the puck was going. Was interesting when I went to Humbl, when you start looking at some of the digital art, the fact that digital televisions these days are so beautiful. Some of these pieces of art, I was like, wow, I could see my high net worth customers having 20 or 30 of those in their place. The value of those NFTs, it's really catching on. And then what was really, I don't know if I should talk too much about this. When I started thinking about the possibilities of ticketing and combining NFTs together, and talking kind of about the Dodgers. I was talking to I'm a big Dodger fan, as you guys know. And I thought, how cool would it be if you went out to a Dodger game, you attended that, we don't want to talk about Dodger, you went out and attended that Dodger game, and Kershaw threw a no-hitter. That no-hitter was then tokenized, NFT'd into that ticket that you were there. The value of that to be able to trade, put on the blockchain, it's just, that's the future, right? That's extremely disruptive. That's not what's going on today. And like I said, if you just look at one publicly traded company, not to compare it, obviously, Live Nation, and we know what they've gone through, that's a $20 billion company. These are all very, very large ideas. And I like the idea of, like you said, put your assets into PayPal, buy crypto, earn interest. And, you're looking at interest rates 5 to 6% in a zero interest rate environment. I believe that's going to be catchy. And then the ability, when you build this ecosystem, unlike what Apple did, to buy tickets, buy NFTs, and like you said, down the road, real estate, all these things. Once, just like Bezos did, you build trust and credibility with a book, with your customer base. I think there's endless opportunity there. And tell me if I'm too overly optimistic.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, what you're dealing with, as you say, is these cradle to grave digital natives. That's never coming back. Right. Anybody that's 20 and under grew up with some kind of device in their hand, if they had that capability. So, our whole goal is to help migrate the economy into digital formats. And we think trade will open up that way. We think there will be digital versions of dollars for every country in the world by 2030.
Talk about stablecoin. I know that's a big thing we're looking at. And I think that, especially when it comes to sending those, overseas, and the value of that with currency fluctuations, just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, stablecoins are a huge part of our thesis, right? Like if you look at countries like El Salvador that are adopting Bitcoin, just because the currency wasn't quite there or they needed an offset for their currency loads.
Okay.
We think that stable coins, either in the form of the digitized US dollar or hybrid stable coins that have different inputs of value, will be the future. So if we can use Humbl or Humbl hubs as a means of distributing those long-term in our roadmap to people who can use them in countries where currencies go up and down, like any of our countries, we think there'll be huge value there. Even the United States is dealing with supply side issues on currency and inflation loads and things like that.
Yeah,
so we see a lot of opportunity both in the US dollar stable coin, but over time hybrid stable coins that have different inputs to stabilize value.
Yeah, and that's usually disruptive. I was actually just on a CFA call a few weeks ago, LA, with Ben Bernanke, former Fed chair, and he said this the coin's coming. Right?
Yeah,
they know they're behind the eight ball on this, and I think at the end of the day, I think they were probably burying their heads in the sand, hoping this stuff would all go away.
Sure.
But it's not going away.
Yeah, and paper isn't necessarily immutable, right? It is when it's printed. But cash and coins as a modality are pretty outdated. If you look at any other sector of business, those things have moved into digital formats, and dollars are just going to be the last thing that does that. So that's happening. It's going to happen. It won't happen all at once, but it's critical that we give people pretty easy to pick off the shelf tools to be able to start using digital forms of their currency in countries. And that's the whole thesis behind the Humbl digital wallet.
It's important. Yeah, and I'm just so you guys know, as an advisor, I'm still not going to take it easy on these guys. So I'm going to ask you a question.
Sure.
Number one opportunity and number one threat you see right now in the business.
So the number one opportunity is packaging the size of blockchain into something that's manageable and usable today for customers over the next several quarters. The biggest threat to us is getting too spread thin on what we're doing, and or ourselves in terms of not executing, right? Like, so it isn't a matter of competition for us or the competitive landscape. We have customer base, we have fervent interest in what we are doing. The FANG stocks by and large are decades old. And so they've done a great job, they're great businesses, but people want something by default new in the market. And we think we have a really strong opportunity. If we execute, then that's, the biggest opportunity and threat is the same thing, which is execution.
That's a great thing. I mean, it's kind of like what Google did, like I was saying earlier, with the search box, right? What Amazon's done with one-click buyout. It's almost scary how much money I spend on Amazon now because it's so easy, right?
But that's tokenization, Rob. I mean, just to jump in on that, tokenization, if you can get people comfortable synthetically trading, tracking, and paying on blockchain in a way where they don't go, oh, that's too hot to handle. It saved me money. It moved faster. It parked my balances in something more stable than my native dollar. Those things get really exciting if we can package them into simple, trusted modalities for customers.
Well, I think that's honestly, Brian, what gets me so excited about the space is like when you think of blockchain right now, most people probably over 30 especially, it's so foreign. It's hard to get your arms around. So the ability to take that and put it into a search box, take that, put it into a one-click checkout, that's ultimately what you're trying to do. And then the verticals and opportunities that spring off of that, just like books. I hate to go back to Amazon, but I've been an early investor in Amazon. And I kind of got the narrative and believed in Bezos a long time ago. You could search me 10 years ago, battling analysts at $200 a share, and it's almost $4,000 a share now because they never really got where he was trying to go.
Well, okay, so if you look at Alipay's narrative in China, so majority consumer set was in cash and coins, like physical bills, and they said if we give you a decent interest rate, will you migrate from cash and coins your balances into the Alipay wallet? They accomplished that with great pace. Then they went out to the merchants and they said, you don't need hardware. You can accept credit cards. Customer just points and pays with this QR code. It's tethered to their bank account or their credit cards or their balance in the Alipay wallet. That alone is a thesis that you can take to 100 other countries if you wanted to do that. So we don't have to look far to the right or left to know where the pockets of entry or opportunity are. If you step that up one layer into blockchain, that's where it gets really transformative, because with something like Bitcoin, you have a limited supply. Exchanges need it because people need to buy and sell and trade with that Bitcoin. And so customer comes in, if they get comfortable parking some of their balances in Bitcoin, they're going to get yields of up to 6%. It's exactly what Alipay did, not at those levels. It was more like 3%, I think. But with Humbl over the next quarter, we will be offering buy crypto or an interest at up to 6%. it's going to be very transformative. And what you see is the gating item is getting people into blockchain. So once they're into blockchain and they go, well, that wasn't so bad, and all of a sudden I have 6% more in my account than I did before, that's when you start to get them comfortable saying, do I want to buy that NFT? I just bought an NFT and it went up in value. Not all of them do, some of them don't, but you know what I'm saying. So really, we think the gating item is getting customers into the wallet, buy crypto, earn interest, and start to buy, sell, and trade on blockchain. And if we can do that, that is our books moment that Amazon had, right? That you got them in there buying books, then all of a sudden it's like, do you want pet food? Do you want shoes? Do you want a t-shirt? Do you want soft lines? Do you want electronics? That's what Amazon did.
Yeah.
We intend to do the exact same thing on blockchain. Buy crypto, earn interest, and then get them used to ticketing, NFTs, real estate, the things that will serve up, as you so notably mentioned on Foote.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And what I really like about you, we go back to regulation, we go back to, hey, I'd rather take a month or 2 or 3 or 4 months and get it right, not run against regulatory barriers. And most importantly, I think what Amazon did right is they started out with books because it was simple to deliver. It was easy access, and they built that trust and credibility in a community to where that's, again, the reason I got drawn into Humbl was the community.
Well, and so Rob, just to stop you there, because it's a great point, the ticketing piece, like the reason why I'm so hot to trot on ticketing acquisitions and ticketing rollouts in the next quarter is because it's a simple thing.
I've seen a little bit on the inside of last week. It's an ugly business of what's being done to the consumer.
The secondary market is horribly fragmented. The fee loads are insane on the buy and sell side, up to 40% in aggregate. Ticketing is such an easy construct. So part of the reason why we've been so focused on ticketing over the last month or two, and we'll do so again in the coming month, is because A, we're about to enter a hockey stick recovery. B, it's a simple decision. Do you want to go to this game or do you not? And C, technology can disrupt that business pretty quickly. You know, the secondary market's so fragmented, and we just see a big opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what I alluded to at the beginning in an early stage company with such a big opportunity set right now, is that ability to pivot, right? I mean, you could be focused on one thing, then you had COVID, the world shuts down, everything's opening back up. There's a massive opportunity. What do you say? Oh, we're going to focus on this part of our business, forget that opportunity. And that's kind of what I like. And that's what I'm here to articulate to investors is there's a big opportunity set. We're going to capitalize on all of it eventually, but we need to stage that in the way where it's most accretive, it has the highest impact, and it puts us in a position for market leadership in each category.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, and sometimes we'll get out ahead of certain curves in terms of, hey, like the domestic customer is not yet ready for that ticket to also be an NFT because they don't have balances in Ethereum or something like that. So we will be working, I think, to calibrate with the market what they're ready for. And the cool part about the device is you can always update what's in there. So I think as long as the customer is patient with us and says, cool, well, they're ready for that now, we will execute what we think is ready for the customer at that time.
And I think that's an important point, right? Going back to that Amazon thing. Everything that we're talking about right now, quite honestly, some of it's a little bit ahead of the technology. It's a little bit ahead of public understanding. But I think that's a better position to be in than to be behind the 8 ball, let somebody else do it, have the first mover advantage. So I like the position you're in right now.
So do we. So I push us to market fast. Sometimes it's not the perfect product, but it's a flag in the ground. We get out there and we'll see how it all stitches together.
Yeah, but as an entrepreneur myself, ones who've worked with not successful entrepreneurs, ones who've been extremely successful, the people who plan and spend all their time in the war room and never get out on the battlefield are the ones who never get anything done. Sometimes you got to put some things out there, test it, build protection, provide feedback that you're getting back in real time. I think you guys have found a way to do that. The key is risk management around that.
For sure. Yeah. No, I completely agree. And I think in the back half of the year, you're going to be excited to see how some of our early tests stitch together into a platform at Humbl. It's really about building out an ecosystem. And we can't wait to welcome customers into that once we've built the final product, which will always be evolving.
Yeah, and that's the thing I've learned just the past couple of weeks. Humbl Nation is strong. It's you know, they appreciate, I think, what you're doing in terms of this opportunity to early shareholders. There's people out there that want to get more and more invested in this company, and that again is that. Now let's talk about the Apple effect. Is that they make it so easy, it's so trusting. I love what Humbl's doing. I'm gonna end it here because I usually try to keep these at about 15 minutes. For those of you guys who asked about
overall, great, insightful information. However, what I think is the overall message is, number one, we've been given a great opportunity to invest in this company on the ground floor. Number two, we need to hang in there. Be patient, Hang in there. We will get there. And then number 3, great things are in the works and great things will happen with this company, Humbl. With all of that said, guys, I will see you on the next video. Take care.